Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Westborough. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is as an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell. We're right down the street, actually, right next to the 495 in Westborough. But this is not about my day job. This is about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've ever seen my presentations regarding elder law, I'm always talking about Frank and Mary and their goal, which is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's Westborough, that means right here. They don't want to move to Marlboro. They don't want to move to San Diego with their kids. They want to stay around. So if you identify with that, the point of this show is to help you figure out who the people are that you need to know and what the things are, the programs are you need to know about in order to stay right where you are. My co-host, Shelby Marshall, as the cliche says, needs no introduction, right? She's become a legend here in Westborough, as a selectman and all kinds of stuff. So she ends up, among other things, finding all of these guests, and I just provide comic relief. So Shelby, whom do we have today? This is a wonderful guest, right?
Yeah.
This just sounds like a lot of fun. So whom do we have and what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, so Arthur, great to see you as always. Happy New Year to all of our guests out in Westborough TV land. Thank you as always to Westborough for bringing us a fresh new year of programming of Frank and Mary to the community. And we have a fun and interesting guest with us today, a great way to kick off the new year. We have, and one of the features I think, Arthur, that you and I had talked about bringing to the community this year is not only the programs and the things you need to know about, some of which are pretty heavy and serious topics. We'll certainly be talking about the vaccine and how do you get it and all of that, but also to feature really the amazing people we have in this community, because Westborough is this amazing quilt of people with a variety of talents, and they give those talents to us and share them with us in many ways. And so today's guest is Luanne Crosby. Welcome, Luanne.
Hello.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
And she may be a stranger to some, but probably not to many. So Luanne, welcome. I had asked if Luanne would join us. We're going to kind of really get into sort of her musical talents. But Luanne, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in Westborough? And take us through your life in a short few minutes.
Okay. I moved to Westborough a little over 31 years ago when I was pregnant with my daughter. And I had been living in Germany where I had a band. This is in the 80s. I moved back and I was staying with my sister and her husband in Wellesley. And we were, my husband at the time and I wanted to buy a house, and we needed to get somewhere where we could afford it. And we couldn't afford Wellesley. So we just drove until we could afford it. And we, at that point, hit Westborough. And now I knew Westborough because of the old Vienna. Being a musician, familiar with that. And I saw an ad for a little historic house over on High Street. We went and looked at that. And we didn't buy that one. We ended up on Morris Street, but in a historic house, because I grew up in a historic house and I love historic architecture. And anyway, so we moved here then, lived in on Morris Street, moved to Adams Street, but where I really wanted to be was in a historic house in downtown Westborough.
And there you are today.
And here I am today.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit about that more as sort of later in the show, and kind of your view of that and kind of what you hope to see for Westborough in the future, which I know will actually be part of its history. So,
yes.
You have an amazing background. First of all, you've been in a band in Germany. So tell us about kind of this musical background.
Yeah. So I started singing when I was about 4, and I was in my first talent shows about 5 or 6. I wrote my first song at 12, and I've written about 300 songs. And I performed. My first real paying gig was when I was about 17 or 18 at the Ground Round in Norwell. I did every Monday night.
Wow.
And then the Real Paper, for those of you who remember.
Plus you got free popcorn, right? Didn't you get free popcorn with that? Wasn't that what the Ground Round?
I can't eat popcorn and sing at the same time, so no.
And when people were reading the Real Paper, yes, and watching the Cosmic Muffin or listening to.
That's right. So I was using the Real Paper because I decided I needed a band. Anyway, I ended up getting into a band met my then husband, bass player. We had a band in Boston, the Luanne Crosby band, for a number of years. And then our roommate lived in Germany. We went to visit, moved back to Germany. We went and said, ooh, this is a great music scene. So we moved to Germany, put a band together with German guys, 3 other German guys. And then, as I said, we came back. We said, you know, we want to start a family, but we were too busy to start a family because we had a band.
Right.
So finally, it was like, okay, we'll come back here. So anyway, I've been in a band of some sort or another, or I had been for about 35 years and everything, and came to Westborough. And when I met my now husband, who I've been with for about 12 years, who is a historic preservation guy, and Art and he know each other. We had been together for a few months, and I was gigging, you know, like at the Chicken Bone in Framingham, and whatever places in Worcester and all around, G. Willikers, and he would see me come back at like 2 a.m. with all the PA gear, and taking all the PA gear out of the truck and bringing it down to the cellar and resetting it up in the rehearsal room and all this kind of stuff. And at one point, after a few months, he said to me, you know, you have a really demanding job. I actually work in biotech for the company that created, that made the Moderna vaccine, actually, up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Thank you.
You have a demanding job and a limited amount of time to do music. Is this really how you want to do it? And
knowing Chris, that sounds so Chris.
It is it was the best thing that anyone ever asked me, because I said, well, no, actually, I write songs, I record, I have all of this stuff. Is this really what I want to be doing? And I said, no. So I gave up the band, I simplified, and I started playing pretty much all the time, just as a solo performer with one other person. Then my daughter gave me a ukulele. That was 10 years ago. And just to mention, as I age, my hands, I have a lot of arthritis in my hands.
Sure.
And I have been a guitar player, and I do a lot of jazz chords and, you know, very intricate jazz. I took jazz theory and jazz guitar and stuff, but it's hard on the hands. You need hand strength, and I'm starting to lose that. My daughter gave me a ukulele, and I went, oh my God, this is so great. Because I can just walk around with a ukulele. I don't need a sound system anymore. I have a projecting voice. Chris and I, living downtown, we'll walk around the block at night on a warm summer night. I sometimes will just bring my uke. We sit on the chairs in front of Red Barn. I play some tunes. Pretty soon we've met like half the people walking by. It's great. The uke is a great thing. So
that's fantastic. So one of the other things that I think is fascinating about your background is that you not only, so you're a songwriter, but you're also a jingle writer.
Well, you know, it's funny because when I was young, and, you know, most of the songs I wrote would be, you know, love songs, and, you know, all
of course, because that was the, you know,
songs expressing what I would feel, whatever angst or anything I was feeling, and I had to get it out. I wrote a song. And then, you know, after doing that for, you know, 30 or 40 years, you know, I had expressed a lot of what I wanted to express. Not that I still write some songs like that.
The inner Joni Mitchell is still there, but you know,
but what I has realized is that during 2017, I met Chris Allen in Roche Brothers, and that was the 300th anniversary, and we started chatting, and she said, maybe you should write a song. Now, all that I need is for somebody to say to me, maybe you should write a song. So, of course, I went home, I wrote the 300th anniversary song, and I played it at all the events. It was a total blast. Somebody I spoke to yesterday who I work with, you know, I communicate with people all over the globe. And I was chatting about how, you know, I just turned 66 in December, and eventually I'm going to retire, and I'm not quite there yet. But she said, you should write a song about that. So
there you go.
When I had insomnia at 3 a.m, I came up with the first verse. It's going to be so good.
so Luanne, you know, one of the things I think that,
excuse me. So that's the sequel. That is actually the sequel that she was just announcing, when we're going to bring her back for when that song is
right.
Other verses are here. Yeah. Okay.
But, one of the things that I think here, I've certainly been in circles where we've talked about, the value of folks like yourself who are slightly younger than me, right? And I mean that with utmost respect, but you have so much to give. And that's what I see in all of the Frank and Marys that live in Westborough, if you will. So what does it take, like, if you were to shed, some light, your influence on young songwriters, young performers, like, what does it take? What advice would you give them, about pursuing that? Because you've been doing this for a lifetime and you still love it. And it's like part of your fabric.
Yes. Now, the thing is that when I was younger and doing this for all those years, and I was writing songs and I was sending them to publishers and I was trying to get them published and I was trying to get record contracts and on and on and on. And it didn't happen. And I'm still, a little PO'd about that because, and my friend, people will say to me, I'll post a song, and people will post, I still can't figure out why you're not famous.
Right.
And I'll say, yeah, tell me about it.
You can't either.
But one of the things is that when I spoke about, deciding to come back from Germany and have a child, we made a conscious decision that we were going to have a child, and we weren't going to have a child and then drag her around while we did CD release parties. Sure. And all this kind of stuff. We actually made a conscious decision that we wanted to be somewhere and raise her in a place like Westborough, a town that we really loved, and that could, it just didn't seem fair. So yes, in a way, I made that decision consciously, and I understand that. Yeah. But I have given a few. I did something at the Milford Library. This was quite a few years ago now, but I did a thing for middle school age kids about songwriting, and and that was really fun. And I do love to do that. Because people just, I feel like if people can tap into their creativity so they can express themselves, that's really what what it's all about, or at least that's what it is about for me.
Yeah, well, it's a gift, and I want to. We'll make sure that through this piece that we put up your website, luannecrosby.com. You have songs out there. Actually, just the other day, my daughter and I went out there. She knew we were going to do this show, and she wanted to know what song you were going to perform. One of her favorite all-time Luanne songs is "Books, Books."
That's the kids' hit.
It is, and but you have a whole kids cafe out there, and by the way, you can moo like no other cow I've ever heard.
I know, isn't that great?
That was very impressive. So if people are wondering what I'm talking about, you got to go to the website.
Because, pigs don't say oink.
No.
They go, so I make the real noises. I'm not going to say oink and moo.
No, you're that was amazing.
I'm a realist.
Right. So we're going to get to kind of
that was great. That was a real pig.
Thank you.
That was like
it's a hidden talent.
Wow.
So, but Luanne, one of the things we talked about is we prepare for the show is that your circuit, right? So you've gone from playing in some probably pretty grungy places all over the world and some really, amazing places. You have a new following, given your music. Tell us about that.
Okay, so what happened, this began in 2012. My mother was at Beaumont in Northborough. She had a stroke. And she ended up there, and I would visit her, 3 or 4 times a week. I was there a lot, and I would always bring my uke, and I would always play. And I played for the staff. I played for the people who were there. It just became, and so she was there for about 6 months before she died. She died in October of 2012. And I thought, I can't just stop going. So I have gone, or I went every Sunday since 2012. Until the pandemic struck. I mean, occasionally I had business trips and I missed a few Sundays, but for the most part, I maybe out of that time missed 10 days.
Yep.
So when I learned, a lot of times somebody would say to me, so I'm playing for people anywhere between 70 and 105.
Right.
And there was a woman there, Ruthie, and she used to play herself. She knew every song in the world, and she'd say, do you know the song If I Didn't Care? And I'd say no. I'd come home, I'd find it on YouTube, the original version, any remakes, I'd listen, I would learn it, and the next Sunday I would go in and play
No.
If I Didn't Care. Okay, so my repertoire expanded. I mean, I had a pretty good repertoire anyway, but
Yes.
now I do songs from the, like the late 1800s
Wow.
to present, really.
Yep.
And a lot of stuff from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So when I could no longer go and see my peeps, I call them my peeps, at Beaumont, I thought maybe what I'll do is do a video, and then they could share it. So I went down to Westborough TV and talked to our friends down there, because as some people might be familiar with the architectural walking tours with music that my husband Chris Noonan and I do. We knew all the Westborough TV people, because that's part of their programming as well. So I said, hey, would you want to do? And they said yes. And so I did the Peeps Musical Hour. Then I did the Peeps Musical Hour Part 2. And then I got my own video camera and started making lots of them. Oh, and then what happened as an outcropping from that is that I started playing memory cafes. And for those who don't know, memory cafes are usually get-togethers in the afternoon, sometimes at the library, Shrewsbury, Hopkinton, sometimes at the Bagel Place in Ashland. It's for people with memory issues and their caregivers. A chance to get out for an hour or two and have a cup of coffee and listen to some music. So I started playing at those, and I became a hit on the dementia circuit, basically.
There you go.
And what's funny is that
they wouldn't remember your name, but they always remember the tune.
But they knew every word to every song. These are people who don't remember their spouse sitting next to them. I start singing If I Didn't Care, and they're singing along. Yeah. Every word.
It's amazing.
It is so, because it's a different part of the brain or something. Yeah. Anyway, I love that. And I realized, I was saying to Chris, I have played in front of thousands of people in large, halls and all this kind of stuff. And it's as much fun for me to be in the Ashland, Bagel Bistro with, 20 people who won't remember me in an hour, but that hour that they experienced.
Right.
But I think one of the really cool things, Arthur, is that because through the help of Westborough TV and now her own video camera and, just technology, she has been able to create really enduring, her music can endure. It lives on, you can replay it. And so she has people who, because of COVID, have been isolated, but their caregivers are now have access to those videos and are playing them. And it has really become a soothing experience at a time of great isolation and great stress. And Luanne had shared one of those stories with me that, this one family in particular, the husband was so thankful that Luanne was still with them and could provide comfort not only to he, but to his wife who has dementia.
That's a great story.
In fact, they came, so occasionally what they do now is they will get in the car, they'll pick up a friend or two, and they'll swing by and roll down the windows, and I come out with my uke, and I play some songs for them. And
drive-by music.
Yes, exactly. Right. Because when the pandemic struck and the weather got nice, I did have a few memory cafes in the backyard, but of course it's a little chilly for that. So, but a song or two in the front yard when the sun's shining isn't too bad.
So speaking of COVID and all this, so you wrote a song that we're going to listen to in just a minute. This was my inspiration for today's show, because it was like, so tired of talking about COVID and when is this damn thing going to be over? Yeah. And you actually wrote a song about that, right?
I did. I write a song about everything.
Yeah, of course you do, right? So this song was inspired, as you'll see, from a conversation that Luanne has, as are many. And so let's roll the tape and hear about what Luanne's going to do, or what are we going to do when COVID's over.
This next song is one I wrote fairly recently. It was inspired by my sister Janice. We were socially distancing on the patio and talking about what we're going to do when COVID's over, she said that would make a good song. And here it is, When COVID's Over. What are you gonna do when COVID's over? What are you gonna do when normal's no longer new? I'm gonna hug my family and friends, the ones I haven't hugged since God only knows when. What are you gonna do when COVID's over? Where's the first place that you're gonna go? We're gonna stop at that little spot downtown, unless of course they've lost it all and had to close it down. What are we gonna do when COVID's over? I know it feels like that might never be, but when COVID's over, we'll come together. That's something we just gotta believe. If you're alive, and if those you love survived, if you have food to eat and a place to sleep because you weren't tossed out on the street, a job that pays enough to live with a little left that you can give to those who need a helping hand, because there's not much justice in this land. Sure, we can complain, life has been a drain, but now's the time to fight the fight, to make things fair, to make things right. That's what we're gonna do when COVID's over. That's the thing that'll make it worth the pain. When COVID's over, you better believe we're never going down this road again. Will we ever learn? Will we ever be concerned that people risk their lives every day just to go to work and get some pay? They're more essential than we knew, and it's time they get what they are due, because on their back big bucks are made. Now's not the time to be afraid. Surely you can see the inequality. Well, now's the time to fight the fight, to make things fair, to make things right. That's what we're gonna do when COVID's over. Right now it seems like that might never be, but when COVID's over, things have to change, and we won't go back to the way they used to be. When COVID's over, things have to change, and we won't go back to the way they used to be. What are you gonna do when COVID's over?
So that was amazing. I keep playing that song. I listen to it again because, there are just little snippets in there. It's funny, it's humorous, it's emotional. So thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. The thing about COVID is that if we learn what we could learn potentially from it, we could be such a better society, and we could be better people. So my hope is that somehow that will make the torture somehow, worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's pivot a little bit. So Luanne, you've been here a long time. I've had the benefit. Someday maybe we'll get Chris on because he's a different kind of wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
You've been here a long time. You're very vested in the community. What do you love? But more importantly, what do you want to see for Westborough? And I'm sort of asking this twofold as a selectman, but I really want you to share that with the rest of the community.
Okay, so I wanted to be downtown for a reason. I love downtown village living. I love being able to walk places and get things when I need them. But also, I just love community. We know all our neighbors for probably a mile around, and I'm not kidding. I mean, we know a lot of people, and a lot of it is that we walk, we talk, we sit. Now, this is the thing that I would love to see, and I have some.
I've got my pen. Go.
I do a lot of traveling in work, a lot in Europe, Switzerland, Germany, France, Spain. And one of the things that Europe has mastered, and we don't quite, is how in towns and village is having the outside an extension of the inside. You know what I mean? Like, for example, when we go for a walk around the block out in front of Red Barn, there were some chairs and a table. Mm-hmm. That's where people congregate. That's where people sit. That's where we meet people from all over the world who now live in Westborough. And of course, we can't talk too much about the storefronts in COVID because we've lost tenants and all that kind of stuff. But it would be really neat when we fill those storefronts up again, if we could somehow have spaces that are open, welcoming, and somehow bring the in and the out. And I know, like you do need wide sidewalks and things like that sometimes to put. But then another thing is when Bay State Common happened, and we are moving a lot of our events, town events, to Bay State Common. The problem is that Bay State Common doesn't feel like it's part of downtown. So the question is, how do you make it feel more like part of downtown? One of the things that you could do, is there should be, as there is in Europe, more a kind of wayfinding. So there should be paths, maybe colored, pretty colored, maybe in the nice weather with window boxes that take you, and you walk from downtown. And I know this is a little tricky, but there'd have to be a private-public partnership to work, to maybe get it through the bank parking lot or whatever it is to get over there. So people know it's there, it's inviting, it brings you over there. And then once you are over there, if it could be a little more, instead of just a big field, if there were maybe more tables and chairs, more just something to make it feel a place for people to go and congregate. Beautiful summer night. Hey, let's walk down to the common, and one more thing, this is unlikely and it probably wouldn't happen, but I think it's so too bad and so funny that the Ted's and the
Tavernier?
the place is right on the common. Their back is to the common.
Oh,
instead of the front being there.
Yep.
And then people can sit outside and they can be right on the common, and the kids can play, and they can, everything is fake. Like if the common was the parking lot and the parking lot was the common, or if the things, there are just ways to do it. And I know it isn't easy, but what it takes is creativity. We were talking about creativity, thinking outside the box. And that's the trick, it's, you have to think things like, now what could we do to make it more, whatever.
Okay.
So I have a couple of comments.
Yeah.
Money follows good ideas. When you start describing what you're describing, the immediate tendency is to say, well, of course we could never afford that, but forget that, right? If you design it right, then money is just going to show up because people are going to say, whoa, that really looks like it's worthwhile. And it's just going to happen.
Exactly.
And so to Shelby, I think this could be, one or two really interesting shows would just be to talk about that. We may even, bring in famous landscape architect Chris Noonan and have him kind of sketch out some things because, money follows good ideas if there's a good picture, So to have that, and I just kind of make that as a general observation. But the other thing, as you were talking, and I was thinking about the other guests that Shelby has had, when you think about one of the reasons why Westborough is special because of the house that you moved into, because it was such a special place. It attracts kind of interesting, creative people that want to walk around. That's why they live downtown. That's why Shelby lives downtown. Yeah. And so that's kind of a core which has caused Westborough to be this kind of incredible place, because places are, they're a cute architect, that's all important, but it's important to the extent that it's building that community, Yeah. And that's why that you're talking about a quality of architecture which really builds that community. I think it's great. That's a great idea. And I'm sure we could develop a whole downtown plan with a jingle that went along with it.
Hey, I've already have a few of them.
Oh no!
You might not, yes. Take a walk around.
Speaking of which, where's you?
I have a couple. One is called This Beautiful Town. Yes. Take a walk around this beautiful town, the data and the history, some known and some a mystery. Okay, that's one. And then I have another one. Look up, it's a pediment. Look up, it's an eve. Look up. And it's all about looking up at the architecture. So, yeah. But I could add a few more.
This is just great.
Well,
Now, Shelby, as you know, my job is to be timekeeper here, so I'm watching at my clock, and so I want you to be aware of that because I know you want to be talking a little bit about some stuff that's
yeah.
coming.
So I do want to, Luanne, thank you so much for being our guest. This is just such a refreshing, fun, invigorating, energetic way to start the new calendar year with Frank and Mary. So thank you for being part of it.
My pleasure.
And appreciate
for reminding us that COVID is almost over.
Yes,
It's life after COVID.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I do thank you for a couple minutes, Arthur. I do want to remind Frank and Mary.
Stay right there. So yes, tell us what's going on the next week.
Yeah, so I just want to remind Frank and Mary and their friends that the Martin Luther King event celebration that is becoming a little bit of an annual tradition here in Westborough will be taking place on January 18th. From 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. We'll make sure that we get that flyer up, and I think there will be PSAs as well that Westborough TV is doing. This is a virtual event. It's being hosted by Westborough Connects, the Westborough Interfaith Association, Central Mass Connections in Faith, and the Westborough Public Schools. There are limited seats. There are 300, and this has been a sellout event in the past. So if you are interested, you definitely want to register. You can go to westboroughconnects.org/programs. There will be English closed caption that will be part of that, and live Spanish interpretation. And Westborough TV, of course, because they're amazing, will be rebroadcasting that show. So if you can't register, the time doesn't work for you, I really encourage you to listen in. It's become a really special event that these collective organizations are bringing forward to give us bring that community and thoughtful conversation and sort of enriching our lives. So thanks to all those involved.
And thank you, Shelby. You've done it yet again. Luanne, you're one of a series of just amazing Westborough people that have come on, and I think it's a blessing to Frank and Mary. Because it empowers people. It empowers you to think that you're part of that community. And once again, and I love the suggestions about downtown. I remember first hearing Janice Allen talking about what is really your unique downtown zoning district, which was kind of a not a standard issue historic district. It's really wonderful, So anyway, it was great. So thank you very much, Luanne. Thank you, Shelby, yet again for doing this. Folks, we hope you enjoyed this. Remember, we're gonna have a sing along next show. You can see if you can really sing along with those words. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Westborough. Thank you.